Master Mummy is just right now being a bitch.
Oh.
Okay, new character in ARMS is the best new addition they've had so far.
Yep.
Dude, that new character, I was like,
fantastic.
I was like, I was like, okay, now I feel much more comfortable saying that this is like Overwatch style, because that is totally the kind of Overwatch kind of character that is like totally different, but like style wise, you know.
Yeah, that feels like something we should say on a show.
We're streaming now, by the way, so.
So stop cussing is what you're also saying, I think.
Yes.
That's fair. I appreciate your honesty.
We don't want a yellow mark on our.
We might get a different audience.
Maybe.
I can take my shirt off again if we need to.
It's called effing Nintendo Dads.
Only it's freaking Nintendo Dad.
Yeah.
He didn't say freaking.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I think we're good to go. Whenever people, let me just make sure I'm recording this.
Let me get over to the drive.
That would be
Okay.
beneficial.
All right. I'm recording on my end.
3, 2, 1.
Whenever everybody's ready. Yeah.
I'm ready.
All right.
Go for it, Marty.
2, 1.
Welcome to Nintendo Dads, episode 155, recorded on November 16th, 2017. On tonight's episode, we discuss Doom, Rocket League, Rime, Rive, the ARMS update, tons of games, even Skyrim is out now, plus the Game Award nominations and so much more. Zach, cue the music.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Dads podcast. My name is Zach Erickson, and tonight is November 16th, 2017. Joining me tonight from the land of the Irish, Justin Massive. What's going on, Justin?
What is going on, buddy? I am getting whooped right now by Master Mummy, and I am so frustrated. It is unbelievable. I have played this stupid target match thing. I don't even want to tell you how many times. Embarrassing, but I'm having an awesome time. Speaking of a guy who's never embarrassing and is an awesome time, Jesse Waldack from VG Tribune. Buddy, what is going on with you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm not sure what to think about that one, but I rarely do. That's
Yeah, man. Right now, speaking of really doing, I don't know what that means. From the land of the South, Marty Estes. What's going on, Marty?
Oh, it is the best time of the year. Today, we got our Christmas tree out. We put it up. We've been listening to Christmas music.
Yeah.
It is so, like, it was, it's so great. I love Christmas. My favorite time of the year.
We totally actually got the Christmas tree out today, too. I'm not even joking. It just happened. I don't know. Actually, I held it off as long as possible. That's what really happened.
By as long as possible, November 15th is as
great.
long as possible?
Oh, yeah, at this house, it totally is, man.
I would have it up the 1st of November if my wife would let me, and it was a fight today. Not a fight, but she was just like, "Look, this is ridiculous. Can I just not have Thanksgiving?"
Someday I should explain my history with Christmas in general, and I'm not as excited as you three are.
Sounds to me like what Jesse's about to say is sometime I should explain how I hate Christmas because I'm Ebenezer Scrooge.
It's not like quite like that bad, but yeah, I actually have a logical explanation for that. But that's for another show.
For some reason, I'm imagining that you were basically that guy from the Santa Claus who was like completely disenfranchised at age 3. It's just like, ever since that day I didn't get that gun at 3 years old, I didn't believe.
Yeah, let's just say it has to do with high school orchestra.
Okay.
Band camp, huh? Yeah, right on. Well, speaking of
blowing our own horns.
And blowing wow. Amazing. Right on. Well, let's get into the news. We got tons to talk about tonight, everybody. Let's get right into it. And the news is brought to you by patreon.com/NintendoDads, where for as little as $1 a month, even you ungrateful freeloader, can contribute $1 a month to contribute to the show, and it's amazing. And I'm just joking. I love our freeloading listeners. You guys are awesome too. But for as little as $1 a month, you can support the show. And you know, we've got so many amazing people who support the show, and I really appreciate them. In fact, we've got new ones this week, right?
We do. We want to say thank you to Derek Hansen and Joel Brooks.
Justin, that sounds like a really good way for us to just lose a listener.
Yeah, sorry, Derek.
Not Derek, no relation to the band Hansen and Joel Brooks. Thanks for.
Can we confirm that? Because you never know.
Okay, maybe they're not. And also, Justin, after last week's debacle of mispronunciation.
Oh.
Yes.
What we're going to do is from now on, because I just apparently can't pronounce names, we're going to let you handle that from now on. So we're gonna when we have a name that us Southerners can't just can't make happen.
Marty, I don't know if you know this, but for about the first 50 episodes of this show, he called him Mario. So
yeah. True story.
Maybe we'll let you. We're just. You know what we're gonna do? Here's what we're gonna do. I'm making an audible call right here, right now. It will be pronounced by our brand new robot Nintendo Dad.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
It's what's gonna happen. It's gonna happen from now on.
I like it. I look forward to. I for one welcome our new robot
Overlord
Patreon.
And that way we yeah.
Yeah, he's got quite the dad board.
Yeah. Jeez. Moving on to this nonsense. Okay, so we've got a little bit of news. We actually are we have a ton of games we're gonna talk about this week. We are going to quickly cover some of these news bits here, but October NPD numbers are in, and I don't know how much longer we're gonna just do this, but yeah, the Switch is still doing good, guys.
Well, I think there is some important, we can take a couple moments there. I think there are some interesting things to stay within that, like Switch is doing well. So here's an example. Mario Odyssey is the top selling software in the US in October, even though it was only on the market for 5 days before the end of the month end. So I think that's pretty significant. Nintendo, the number one hardware seller was the Switch. Number two was the SNES Classic. So, suck it, Xbox. And PlayStation.
Someone put out a tweet that I retweeted. The Super Nintendo outsold both the PS4 and the Xbox One last month. Now wrap your head around that for a second.
Yeah. and I mean, Zach, we laughed about it before, right? But I think the reason that we kind of like keep being like, "Yay, Nintendo's doing great," is because 18 months ago we were like, "Hey, they sold a Wii U. That's awesome." Right, well, and you're cheering for, it's a good story when you're cheering for your team that's winning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, for sure. And it's just like I don't know. It is amazing to me. I was looking, even when the Switch was announced and not out yet, like there was so much doom and gloom, right? Like where it was just like it was crazy how much doom and gloom there was about the Switch, and now and about Nintendo in general, and now everybody is just, I don't know. It's
even Capcom's jumping on board now.
What? Wait, did I miss a news story?
They committed to 3 Ace Attorney games for the Switch.
Wow.
That's what they're committing to?
That's exactly
not surprising, since I don't think you're going to develop for 3DS anymore.
But I will say that there was a mysterious image that popped up on the Mega Man subreddit this week that was Japanese writing and everything, and it had what seemed to be a new logo for Mega Man.exe and the Switch logo.
And can we talk about that? There's a Mega Man subreddit?
There is a Mega Man subreddit. It's
There's
glorious.
enough people who actually like that thing? Oh.
That's uncalled.
The thing is that's what I was saying about Donkey Kong earlier too. So
I will cut you. But a year ago this time, you made some fatal mistakes, sir. I have not forgiven you for that. And I remember, and I've been planning 365 days of revenge for that. And there it is, right there. You are welcome.
I appreciate it. That's very well received.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm the one that created that subreddit. I have plotted this for a whole year. And that's a fake account. And that's a fake artwork. Now I've go. Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. So let's talk about these numbers a little bit then. What's like, is there any... Give me the highlights here. What's the big thing to take away?
I just did the highlights.
What was it? 62% of all hardware sold in October was Nintendo hardware.
I think that was the number that Canada announced, which is different than NPD does U.S. sales. So, but if you add 3DS hardware sales to it, I think this is the second month in a row that 2/3 of all hardware sold in the U.S. was Nintendo, and this is the first time since 2011 that they've sold over 1 million hardware units across all their brands.
Sorry if I just cheered on camera, it's because I just won in overtime in Rocket League. So
yay,
we're good now.
Well, and then I think the other takeaway, as I mentioned before, is like Mario top selling software. Literally 5 days.
That's crazy, right? Like, that's so good. So that's Nintendo's gonna. I am really interested to see how they do this holiday. Especially as things ramp up. Yeah. I
really wish that NPD still publishes numbers. They don't do that anymore. That is, publishes the rankings. But knowing that the exact numbers I've always found interesting.
Yeah. So I had an interesting experience when I was at the I went to my son's Remembrance Day assembly that he insisted for some reason that I go to it, even though like he had no part of it. He was like, "Dad, you should come." I was like, "All right, cool, I'll go." Which is like Veterans Day up here for people who don't know. It's like remember the soldiers and whatnot, and they hang wreaths and it's cool. But I was like, okay, that's cool. And I got there probably 10 or 15 minutes early, and I brought my Switch with me. And I'm sitting like on the back row on like the chairs as all the kids are coming in and sitting on the floor and whatever. And it was funny because I think one kid noticed, and this is like, this is when you start to know that this is actually becoming a success. One kid turns around and he sees, and I've got like the one blue and one red Joy-Con sort of look going, and he turns around and then he looks at his buddy and he like talks to his friend, and then they both turn around and look at me, and then a row in front of him turns around and looks at me, and they're like, "Whoa!" And I was like, like very clearly like, "Whoa, that guy's got a Switch over there. He's playing the Switch," right? And I was just like, okay, like,
what up, y'all?
Something is working with Nintendo, right? Where those kids are excited about it.
And I actually had a very similar experience this last weekend. So this weekend I was up in Galway, Ireland at an event called Gamerfest. And big thanks to those guys who invited us to come up there. And Barry Dunn, a good friend from Nintendo Impact Gaming, joined me as well. And Barry had said, we kind of just went as press just to kind of report on it and promote it. And Barry's like, well, I'm going to bring my Switch, and why don't we just like set up a table and we'll highlight some Nindy games. So a lot of other people had like dedicated booths to like, here's some retro games that they've set up, and they brought in a vendor and stuff like that. And over here is Ubisoft, and they've actually got a booth and they've got specific games that they're playing. And so we were kind of like in the corner, right? Like in the corner, kind of behind some other stuff. He's got a table, and it's literally just a flat screen television we put a Switch onto. We started playing, and our corner filled with people, like more so than other areas. And so we've got his Switch on the big screen. I've got my Switch out now that I put on either tabletop mode, and people are crowded around. We've got 4 chairs in front. People are playing. Parents are coming around, and they're like, so do you work for Nintendo? I was like, no, I don't work for Nintendo. I told them my story, and they're like, so tell me about the Switch. How does it work? Because they want one for Christmas. Like, are the games good? How does it work? Comes off the dock? Can you show me that? And so Barry and I spent about six to 7 hours there at the event on Saturday, basically becoming a Nintendo PR rep. And God bless the Nintendo PR reps, because we know we have them that listen to us as well. You guys do a great job. But it was just the amount of people. We had more people at our unofficial booth that we created than some of the other spots had for actual vendors at paid tables. And we went and Barry and I were finally, it was like 2:00. We're like, we haven't eaten. We got to have a break. And so we had to shut things down and take a break. And then, so we, packed up all of our stuff, kind of went out to have our lunch break. And literally people were like, so are you almost done your lunch break yet?
Are you serious?
Or we'd like to play some more Switch. Could we do that? And one guy was like, wow. Like we finally got back to him and they're like, wow, that was a really long lunch break. Hey, you feeling good with the decisions you made? And like this was like a 12-year-old kid, and I was like, yeah, I feel good about what I did here. Like, what do you want from me? But there was such a fever. We actually Barry did a giveaway for an amiibo for the Mario Odyssey wedding amiibo, and he had them compete in little trial speed runs in Mario Odyssey, like when you race a Goomba, and he was like keeping actual track of times, and it was just like there was such a fever around it, and so many people were like, I want this for Christmas, Mom. Oh, this is a great game. What games do you have out there? This is awesome. How does it work? Are the kids going to lose the Joy-Cons? And it was just it was really just there was a fever for it. And the organizer actually came up to us later and they're like, yeah, I really wish that there had been some way that we could have done more Switch coverage, and like we had brought Nintendo here to do more, because I think that would have been great as well. So yeah, they're just killing it. They're just killing it right now.
Yeah, man. And hey, the more we can ride on their coattails, the better, as far as
exactly.
Right on. That's super cool. So keep being awesome, Nintendo. Keep doing your it's super exciting. So next up, we've got the Game Awards, and those are they're a thing that are coming. And I had a funny conversation on Twitter with Bobby Paul's Nintendo Guru, and we were talking about how basically the fear is at this point that that Nintendo has that is potentially going to be dividing the vote, or split the vote between Odyssey and Breath of the Wild for Game of the Year at this point. I don't know if this is true or not. He said it was the biggest worry that he's had ever since they announced Odyssey. I don't know if that's, I think there's scarier things. John from Megadad said, like getting Alzheimer's and forgetting my family might be a bigger fear, but
just maybe.
I don't know. Or like we all go into like nuclear winter because the U.S. and North Korea go into like some crazy World War III scenario. But splitting the vote on Odyssey and Breath of the Wild is terrifying. So,
which I'm sure the entire Nintendo department is sitting around like, hey guys, we have awesome games we want to put out, but do we really want to split the vote at the Game Awards? Like that's.
Well, I'm also not sure that these awards are 100% based off of web-based player voting, because in the past they've had a panel of judges. And I think I have no idea, and I haven't done any research in this, but I'm kind of thinking that the web-based voting community will act like a judge, and that gets a vote into the rest of their official judging panel.
Sure.
So I don't think it'll be as skewed as they're doom and glooming it to be.
Yeah, because I want to think I think Victor Lucas talked about last year how he was a judge or vote. I want to think some of the major influencers like Kind of Funny, I think were having votes. I think IGN, and there is probably some community of judges and stuff, not just Jeff Keighley and the internet make the decision. So
there are certain categories that are supposedly purely based on the web polls. And there was actually one category that's new this year of best Chinese game, and only people in China can vote on that. So
that's interesting.
We're not able to place votes for those.
Yeah.
Of course, we've never played any of them because they're only available in China.
Yeah. So Jesse, let's break down some of those Game Awards. So let's talk about what is the highlights from a Nintendo perspective. We don't need to go through every category, but just pull out a couple highlights of things to be aware of.
I'm pulling up the nominees again because I wasn't thinking ahead. So yeah, Breath of the Wild and Odyssey are up for a lot of awards. I think in previous years, I think Nintendo has had like one or two nominations total. Yeah. Over one, maybe two games. And here, they're
in almost every category, aren't they? Like, it seems like just about every category, other than like the big story story.
Both of them were nominated for Game of the Year. Both of them are in Best Game Direction. Scrolling down, Breath of the Wild is Best Art Direction.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd agree with that statement.
They're both in best score in music. They're both in best audio design.
The thing is, too, is that like when you get into some of these, that I think just about every big Nintendo, like, you know how we had like a tentpole game every month. I'm pretty sure just about every single one of those has representation in at least one category, right? So like ARMS is in fighting, Pokken is in fighting, Mario Rabbids is in strategy.
I didn't see Pokken, but ARMS definitely is in there.
Pokken wasn't, maybe. Yeah, maybe I missed.
Tekken is in there, but not Pokken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed, which I am glad, because that was my big complaint from last year, is they split mobile and handhelds into their own categories.
Oh, good.
Oh, thank goodness, man.
Because we had 3DS games going up against Pokemon Go, and so this year that's not happening.
However, Switch games are not in handheld category, which I'm like, I yes and no. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, really 3DS is the only thing out there right now. So everything here is a 3DS game. So that's very Nintendo heavy.
Yeah.
And then of the mobile, they have Fire Emblem Heroes and Mario Run. So they get the Nintendo still has 2 out of the 5 nominations.
Interesting. Wasn't Mario Run last? Oh yeah, okay. Would have been a year cycle. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, other non-Nintendo things. I think Cuphead got nominated a lot.
Yeah.
Persona 5 got nominated a lot.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Horizon's got nominated a lot. And see, for best family game has Splatoon 2, Mario and Rabbids, Sonic Mania, Mario Kart Deluxe, and Odyssey. So all 5 games are on Nintendo console.
That's great. That's a fantastic story also. So
yeah, so that's pretty awesome. I don't know. What are we thinking for game of the year? Like, let's make predictions now. Where is this going? What do you guys think?
I think it's going to be Zelda, but I would rather it not be. But
I know
it's going to be Super Breath of the Odyssey.
The other nominations for that are PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which I don't think I've ever even heard of, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Persona 5.
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is like in fact, it might even still be in early access, but it's like it's like an online survival.
Is that
shooter.
Is that like the Hunger Games, more
Basically,
or less?
yeah.
I think Marty did talk about that, or someone talked about that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a game that is, it's a thing. So it's a phenomenon, if you will.
Phenomenon.
Yeah.
One of the categories, so they have I think they have a best indie game, but they also have a new category. I'm looking for it. It's basically the best title of a new development studio.
So like best debut or something like that,
yeah,
or
it's like a second indie category, but it's like specifically, this is the first game that this company made.
Yeah, so Cuphead will win that one.
Probably, yeah. I don't know if
best debut indie game. Cuphead is nominated. The other one is that is Nintendo is Golf Story.
Here's a thing that makes me realize the difference with Nintendo right now is most anticipated game presented by McCafe, which okay, thanks McDonald's.
I'm loving it.
There are no Nintendo games on this list because we don't really know, other than Kirby and Yoshi, I guess, we don't know any of these games that are coming out. Like, they haven't shown anything. And this is like, we don't need to get
Spider-Man we've known for 2 or 3 years now.
Right, but they've actually like shown off these games now, like they're like enough to be excited about them. Whereas like Metroid Prime isn't on this list, Pokemon isn't on this list because we haven't seen them.
And we don't know that they'll be out next year.
Yeah. So to be fair, we don't know that any of them will be, but yeah. Anyway, so that is the Game Awards that tune in on, when is that? December 2nd?
December 7th. I think 7th? At 7:30 Central.
What is that day? Like
It's a Thursday.
A Thursday? Okay. Oh, good. Yeah, we won't compete. We can compete with them, right? We'll figure that out.
So either we record Wednesday or we probably start late because.
Yeah. So that's that one. Finally, ARMS update came today. Was it today or yesterday?
It was this morning.
Yeah, and so it brings a new character, Misango. Missing no is, I think, what I saw a lot of people saying, right? You Pokemon fan.
That's the first thing that I thought of when I saw it.
Yeah, and what else is this? It also brings Splatfest, right?
Yeah, so it brings us Party Crash. It brings us the Party Crash mode, which I put in our kind of quick commentary about it, that it appears to be the ARMS version of Splatfest. And the first one is coming up here on November 22nd and 24th to the 24th. It runs for various hours throughout that. You're given basically points and additional for playing with certain characters and weapon loadouts, and there's challenges. So we have that. So that's the first time they've really done an official big thing. I think it's interesting that they're competing on the weekdays and not weekends, which is where Splatfest traditionally is. So I think that's pretty cool. I think they're understanding they cannot be allowing Splatfests or Splatoon and ARMS to overlap in those ways, and they need to start separating their own identity. There are some new badges that came out. There's some new ARMS that came out, and a new level, which is the temple, which is associated with the character Misango. So a huge update. I think a really good update. Again, 4.0. Some great things in here. I've been playing it and loving it. I really love the new character. I know, Zach, you mentioned it before. We're going to talk about that in a couple moments. But I think it's another great example of Nintendo. Like,
is this also sponsored by McCafe?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I am loving it. Now I'm hungry for.
Though.
You know, when Jesse gets you with the dad joke, Burns, it hurts just a little bit more.
Get a little extra sting. Yeah,
exactly. But I think it's a great update. It brings me back. I'm playing it right now. I'm going through it. They're killing it. I don't know. What do you guys think of this? I think it's great. And if all of you say I'm wrong, then you can.
No, you're not wrong. I think that ARMS is probably, for me, like when I think about the first 9 months of the Nintendo Switch, is probably the most tragic game that Nintendo has put out, because it got buried so quickly by Splatoon that people either assume that it's just a dead game, or that they just don't, that nobody cares about it. In fact, I even saw a thread this morning on another Nintendo group that I'm a part of on Facebook, where somebody had posted a picture of them trying to play online, and like one other person was in the group. And they're like, this game's dead, it's trash. And of course, like immediately everybody was like, just because you don't like a game doesn't mean it's trash, Yeah. And I think that that example there shows that the problem, again, and I said this back when Splatoon was coming out, Nintendo could have held off a couple of extra months on Splatoon, and given ARMS a little bit of room to breathe and a little bit of room to kind of get its legs under it competitively.
Yeah.
Whereas what happened was they just kind of sucked everybody over to Splatoon.
Yeah.
And I know that's their bigger, more popular franchise. I get that, but and I also get that they kind of wanted to have I'm not trying to make a pun here. They wanted to kind of have that 1-2 punch of you see what I did there, of like two big game releases, two big competitive game releases, steamrolling through the summer.
And I can understand why they still wanted to have Splatoon kind of close-ish to ARMS being a new IP. They didn't know if it was just going to crap or not, and they didn't want to have. If it did, they didn't want that dead air.
Yeah, but so. And I guess the other option I was thinking as you're talking, Marty, is like you could have swapped Splatoon for where Rabbids was, or you could have put Pokken where. And again, these are all my assumptions.
That's true.
Like these games are completely already done, just sitting on a shelf, and we're waiting to magically drop them in front of you, right? So there's probably some production time there, right? But you are right. And the interesting thing about ARMS, though, is that Nintendo hasn't forgotten about it, and Nintendo continues to promote it, right? I think these updates are a great example. when they had, when we went to when I went to EGX in September, they had an ARMS tournament, and like I played with 12 other people who were super passionate about ARMS and were amazing at it and had practiced. And like, the Lollapop had just came out, and this guy like killed it with Lollapop. Like, it was embarrassing how good he was at this. So there's such a rabid fan base. And actually, even when I put out our post, I actually got a tweet back and a follow from on our Twitter account, Arms Punch Club, and the supporters of that group as well, including a Michael Cowan, who are rabid fans about ARMS, and they're passionate about it, and it's like it's their game, just kind of like how Smash is for some people, right? So I think this is fantastic that they keep doing it. I wonder how deep their support of it is. I know they said we're going to continue to support it beyond, but like, can we expect 1, 2, 3 more characters? Can we expect 3 more levels? Can we expect more of these stages as well? Like, what is the, not to again be punny, what's the legs on ARMS as it relates to
now this is amazing.
Taking my shirt off. What's going on?
Oh my gosh, dude. That was
so I wonder, it's really cold all of a sudden now. I committed really a lot more to that than I wanted to. I really wish I put my shirt back on.
It's okay if you put your shirt back on if you like.
Not learn your lesson from last.
But I'm actually literally tangled. My head
in a row.
My headset's actually tangled up my shirt right now. So my commentary there is, wow. I wonder how far it goes. But I think they're doing a great job. Yeah. Zach, you said you really like the character, and you said this was a little bit more like Overwatch. I'd like to hear that and put myself on mute with my shirt back on.
Okay, so like one of the things that's interesting, like there was kind of that vibe with ARMS when it first came out of like, hey, they're kind of doing the Overwatch thing where it's a really varied cast and pulling from lots of different world cultures, stuff like that. And then the first 2 characters that they released, I was like, okay, like you released the end boss of the game for the first one, and then you unleashed like I'm not gonna lie, when Lollapop came out, I was severely like underwhelmed. Like, really, these are we're going to have this weird French clown girl as like that's the next thing here, and like I was really disappointed by that. I did not like the character design. It felt very goofy and didn't even really fit into the world. I felt like, anyways. But this character is back into where things should be, I guess, with the character design, where it's like, let's take these different cultures and different sort of areas around the world, and we're going to make this into a really cool sort of, fit the theme of the game. And I'm really impressed with it. So I think it's cool. The game itself, I feel like I don't know if this game ever really clicked with me the way that it has with a lot of people. But I'm glad that other people like it. I also did notice that more badges are here. Like I played a couple of rounds online, and I got more badges for playing using a dual stick grip for the first time. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I didn't have that one before, but I've played that before. So why did that not happen? Right? Little things like that. I notice I'm getting more things. I need to get more into it. But I do really like the new character a lot. I feel like when they add new characters, they don't do enough. One of the things I love with Overwatch is when a new character comes out, before the character is released, you have a really good sense of what makes this character different from everybody else. And they fail at that entirely, I think. Whereas they release this thing and, hey, you get to see their arms a little bit. But the video showed off a bunch of these weird masks that I kind of went into the help section to read what makes this character different, and
it's still not really a great explanation of what it is.
Yeah, it's apparently it actually makes a difference which color uniform you choose, which I think is a cool sort of gimmick with it, right? Where if you choose I don't know, I'll go into this now even, right? And it's if you choose the different,
it's when you do your charge, when you choose to actually block and hold down the charge for a while. It will give you different things. So if you charge when the spirit is blue, Masengo will speed up just a little bit for just a few minutes. If you charge when he's red, then he kind of gets that Master Mummy type of punch protection.
Okay.
Yeah, and then his with the when you rush with him, it like he becomes like kind of like he can withstand a lot of punches. Like he can kind of just walk through them, and so I mean it's that's kind of all in that explanation again that you had on there. But man, like I would love like a little introduction video, kind of like Overwatch does, you know, or some background videos. Because I mean, I think the lore in this game is good. I think it's worth exploring.
Yeah, it seems like
maybe that would make people kind of bite in a little bit more. I don't know.
If there's one critique I have of this game, it's that the characters, as they do DLC, they don't feel distinct enough. You know what I mean? Like they don't feel different, and like that's one of the things with Overwatch that's just like a new character comes out. Like Overwatch just released this announced this new character of Moira, and she's like a friggin' wizard that is totally different from everybody else in that game, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas like yes, they released new arms and there's some cool new stuff, but ultimately the same gameplay of like punch left, punch right, dodge, whatever is all still there, right? Whereas like with Smash Brothers or Overwatch or any of those games like Heroes of the Storm, if you play like MOBAs and stuff, they're like when a new character is released, it is a new experience entirely, and I don't get that same experience when a new ARMS character is released. So I don't know. I mean, if you guys disagree, feel free to disagree with me and tell me where I'm wrong with that. But that's kind of my one issue with how they're doing these ARMS DLC. But I don't know. Justin, you seem to be the one who plays ARMS more than anybody else. Am I off base here or what?
Yeah, I don't think I would completely disagree with you on that. I think some of the characters do feel a bit samey at times, but they could do a better job. I think there are some more. I think they're getting better at the distinctions and the options, but I still think it's good additions for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like this new character is different enough to feel?
Yeah, in my opinion, it definitely does feel different enough. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Just the character. I mean, the character design itself feels different enough. The arms feel different enough. Even the weight of how it plays, I think, feels a little bit different than some of the other characters as well. So yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay, cool. Right on. Very cool. Well, with that, I think we've kind of already crossed into what we've been playing, but I'm gonna make it official. Let's do it. All right. By the way, I see this question in the live chat. We could have done this before. This is, of course, now that we're in what we're playing. Of course, we'll just answer this question about the news. Do you guys going to get any sort of an announcement from Nintendo at the Game Awards?
Yes,
it's possible.
What do you think? Like Zelda DLC? I think that's the most likely.
Yeah, Zelda DLC announcement will be there.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to say too.
And they'll show off something for 2018.
If it's anything else, it might be like a early look at Prime 4.
Oh, dude, people will crap their drawers if that's what happens.
I think it's going to be Mario Odyssey DLC.
Ooh, that would be good. I like that. Right on. Okay, well, let's get into what we've been playing, gentlemen. I have several games that I'm playing that I've played this week. Starting off with, and I think Marty, you've played this too. Nintendo was kind enough to send us a copy of Mario Party Top 100 for the 3DS, and I've been playing it. I was confused by this game when it showed up, but I think I like it. Right? Like, I've actually never played a 3DS Mario Party game before, and I don't know if I would have. I don't know if I would have chosen this game myself, but I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it. It was kind of fun, right? Marty, what's your take on it? I'm curious.
Well, as someone who did choose this themselves and choose to pay for and download this game, Mario Party games get a lot of play in my household. We enjoy those, and my son and I frequently play via download play on the DS, and so. There's a couple of things about this that I really appreciate, but just overall, before I get into those specifics, this is a really great package, and I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, it should have been on the Switch, and it should have been this, it should have been that. What people probably need to understand is that this was probably in the pipe a long time before the Switch came out. This feels like a game that was coming out a while ago, and then it kind of got pushed back because the Switch got popular, and they were like, oh crap, we need to, kind of put a plug in things for a while, maybe, and let the Switch kind of have its day. But the basic concept of the game is the best 100 mini games from Mario Party as a whole, and that includes Mario Party all the way up into the Wii versions. So you're going to have games that you are kind of familiar with, or if you're like me and you played like Mario Party 1 through 3 on the N64, and then kind of fell off when it went to the GameCube, and then came back in the Wii era, you're going to have some gaps. But there's several different modes. There is just play mini games mode, because that's pretty much what the game centers around. There's also a single player mode, which lets you go through a pretty simplistic board, but you end up playing all 100 mini games in the series. And what ends up happening is you unlock those games as you go along, and you're able to compete for stars and different things like that. There's you
fixed that, by the way? Like I've gotten to like the third. I'm in the third world now, I guess.
I'm on level 2.
Okay.
So the cool thing about that is that if you don't have anybody around to play with, then you can still play those games. And those games take like some of them, 15, 20 seconds, and then you move on to the next one. So you're constantly switching. It almost like when I first started playing, or actually when I got to World 2, and there were games that were kind of not similar, all the time. I was like, man, this kind of feels like WarioWare, but not fast enough. Like it had the pauses of moving between games, and you could choose branching paths. And there's a few other modes. Like there's a simplistic board mode that if you played Mario Party Star Rush on the 3DS before this, you'll be familiar with, about how you move around the board and get stars. And that's about it. Really, that at the end of the day, that's about it. So kind of skimpy on modes, but here's one thing I really do like about this game. Mario Party Star Rush, you had to have the companion app downloaded on your DS to be able to play the games. You don't have to do that with this. You can do download play directly from the cart and a single console. We tried it the other day. My son and I played a quick match together, and it works flawlessly. And I think ultimately that's probably why they kept this on the DS, is because that ability is there already. And it's kind of, for me, I think this is 2 or 3 outings on the 3DS for Mario Party. It's kind of come to be expected at this point, that you'll be able to do that. Like one cart will let you at least play games with each other. And the Switch, unfortunately,
basically, right? Like other than that multiplayer mode, like I was actually really impressed, because me and my son did play a few rounds of, just playing different games and stuff. I just wanted to try it out with him, and yeah, it was I was impressed with how well it pulls that off, right? Where it takes quite a while for it to load. I found, like, not a really long time, but when you're wanting to jump in, it's long enough to be like, okay, we're waiting. But once it's in there, it's like, oh yeah, the whole game's basically opened up to you. You literally transfer all 100 games over to the other person's 3DS for temporarily, and then go from there. But yeah, anyway. So I was impressed with that for sure.
Right. So having played it, and you've put a little bit more time into it than I have, and but I've played it. Maybe have you played it with your kids?
I played it with my son. Yeah, and
okay.
It was.
I'm sorry, you were cutting out a little bit there on my end, so I may not have caught that. But so you've pretty much played it the same way. Do you feel like this is something that we could recommend? And in what and I would classify that in saying it this way. In what situation could we recommend it? Yeah,
I would say if you're doing this for single player, and you have a real big nostalgia for old Mario Party games, and you're like, oh man, I'd love to play that one Mario Party whatever in the background, before, then yeah, sure. But otherwise, I don't know. I think it's fine. Like I don't know. Again, I don't have any other context for Mario Party games on 3DS, and so it's kind of hard for me to compare them. But I would say that it hasn't sucked me in, but it's not terrible either. If that, like, it's a very solid, like, I don't know, like maybe that kind of reaction is enough to tell you enough about it. You know what I mean? Where it's like not super excited either way. I think according to GameXplain's ranking system, they called it a meh, which feels fair. Like, not amazing, but not terrible either. So, I don't know how does that sit with you, Marty?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. Again, like you said, if you have nostalgia for Mario Party, I think it's a no-brainer for you to get this game. Yeah. It's not going, but alongside that, let's say this: it's not going to offer you anything new. There's no new mini games in this collection, so it's just games you've played before. If you've always been a fan of the Mario Party series and you've bought every one of them, you've played these games. They're just all collected in one place right now. The other thing is that while it's not a bad game, it's not necessarily a game that sets the world on fire. If that makes sense. But if like you're not really into the Switch lineup right now and you're not really into what else is coming out for 3DS, then maybe it's a solid pick. If your family just likes games where you can all sit down and play together, because let's be honest, Mario Party doesn't take a lot of skill to play. Mm-hmm. I don't know many people who are like, man, I just gotta go train. I gotta go train my Mario Kart skills, or my Mario Party skills. So if you just want something you can kind of sit down and play that's fun, because it's definitely not Mario Party 10 on the Wii U, because that game was trash. And if you want to remember what good Mario Party's like, play these games. I would say if we were giving it a star rating or a number rating, I would be pretty confident with a 3 out of 5, middle of the road.
3, yeah. I would even be comfortable with like I don't know, maybe a 3.5, right? Like, because but it's it is a very safe holiday release.
Yes.
I would say on a scale of like Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival to, or like it's better than Amiibo Festival. It's better than Ultra Tennis. Mario Party Tennis or Mario Tennis Ultra Smash.
Oh, it's definitely better than
those, right? Better than those ones.
That's a low bar,
right? Like, it's not bad. It's just not. It's very, very safe. And maybe if I am going to use a derogatory term, I would say maybe a little bit lazy or uncreative. But it's also partially because it's a compilation title, and that's
sure.
Right, so that would be maybe what I would say about that. But it is what it is, and I think that that's pretty good. So yeah. So that is Would you add anything else to that?
No, yeah, I think you hit it. You summed it up extremely well.
Okay. So next up, there's a couple. I think chronologically, maybe it makes the best sense here. Last Friday, Doom for the Switch came out, and I never played Doom. I should clarify. Way back in the day, when I was still in probably like junior high school time, I played Unreal Tournament, and like sort of the Doom 64, like those kinds of things. I had never played this version of Doom before, like this new 2016 Doom. And so I was really, really interested. I love Overwatch. It's one of my favorite games of the past several years. And so I was really interested, right? Like, what is this Doom? So I took the jump and it's really, really fun. Like, as far I feel like I have to clarify, or I have to divide my impressions, gameplay versus sort of technical side here. And it definitely made a difference. I think I've talked about before how I play the majority of my Switch time actually in handheld mode. And this is a thing where, and this is for both Doom and Rocket League, which I also picked up this week. Both of these games, it's wonderful that they are on the Switch. They play really well. You can get into them. But Panic Button did the transfer or the port on both of these, and they have similar. I want to call it jankiness as far as like load in. You know how you start a game, or you load a level and you very quickly watch it, like it's rendering right in front of your eyes, where it's like zoom in, enhance, like in whatever, like CSI or whatever. You literally watch that happen frequently in a lot of these, in both games, right? Where and it's not necessarily to the point where it's terrible, but it's noticeable sometimes. But I'm going to say, like, Doom in particular is like a awesome game on the Switch. I am not done the campaign. I think I actually looked at the arcade mode because it shows all of the levels. I think I'm about 2/3 through the game, I want to say, or through the main campaign at this point. And I've played quite a bit of the multiplayer. I actually have a video going up on the channel on YouTube. I think I want to say on Saturday is when it's scheduled to come out. And it is really interesting. The customization is fun. It makes me really want Overwatch on the Switch, actually. Like, I'm a huge, if you know Overwatch, I'm a big Junkrat player, and I've just had the grenade launcher. I've just been playing grenade launcher in the online multiplayer, and it's really fun. And so I really would love to have Overwatch on the Switch now. And it's good. The thing is like the frame rate is solid on both handheld and docked mode. I personally find a preference for playing it in docked mode, especially if you're able to sit a little bit further away from your TV. The low resolution models sometimes, like when that's less noticeable if you're a little bit further away from the TV, whereas if you are literally holding in handheld mode right in front of your face, you're going to notice it a lot more. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about this, or if you are aware. I think I'm the only one who picked up Doom, right? So
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah. Also, it made me. I was able to ease my wife's concerns. There is I definitely use the controls in the parental controls app that locks people out of playing games over a certain rating, right? You can do that, which was really nice. So I actually went in there, and I'm like, okay, well, now you can't play anything that's rated over teen, right? And so, like, if my son goes to try and play this game, he can't do it. I did buy a physical copy of this game, and in order to download the multiplayer, it was over 7 gigs. So with a physical copy of the game, it takes over 7 gigs, which is a little bit crazy. But for me, that's also, the multiplayer is a really fun part of it for me. I know it's not maybe what the kind of multiplayer that other people like, but if you're coming from an Overwatch, or like I played a lot of Unreal back in the day, it's that kind of, it's fun. So so that's Doom. I would definitely say if you like this kind of thing, it's worth being on the Switch. It's disgusting, it's gory, but it's so cartoony. Other than the chainsaw deaths, like that gets pretty gnarly, and it's definitely not for the kids. But a lot of it is like you shoot them with a shotgun, and then just like somebody threw a bunch of meatballs in the air. Like it's cartoony in that sense and not overly detailed. But it's Doom. I mean, you know what you're getting. So that's that. Any questions about that before we move on, or like about specific things? Okay, no. Next up is Rocket League. And Rocket League is who here's playing Rocket League?
I am.
How? Oh my gosh, dude, Rocket League. Have you ever played Rocket League before? Had you? Played it?
I've actually played Rocket League on the PS4. I can't say that I played it extensively. Again, my internet is not great, so hauling my PS4 around all the time to play Rocket League is not the easiest thing to do. However, hauling around the Switch to play Rocket League is way easier. And man, I can't tell you how much I love this game. Like,
fun, dude.
And I'm just gonna say this, and it may make people mad, and I don't
good.
care.
I'm settling. I'm settling in.
I am so tired of here's this game on every other system, and here's how it looks on the Switch. Blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Here's the deal: I can poop and play Rocket League at the same time.
Yeah, you can.
I don't need anything else. And they're like, well, I saw like the day it came out. It had been out.
Complete. Like, life is now complete.
Oh yeah, life is complete. It's what a time to be alive. Here's the deal. Like the day that this came out, like I saw, like literally dozens of posts of people saying, "Oh, can't get this. It's unplayable. I just can't do it. I can't take it. It's only 30 frames per second," which it's not. It's 60 frames per second, and that's why it is a little bit jaggy in places. Or the textures aren't smooth. Or blah. When did gaming become about this?
Oh, dude.
When did fun or a good idea in gaming, like good fun game, when did this become eclipsed by, oh, it has to look like real life? I just can't play this if it doesn't perform the same way as all the other systems. Man, get off your high horse and play the dang game. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel like this is like the gaming console industry is finally catching up in some sense. And I'm gonna call myself a maverick or whatever. I have been playing games on my laptop on low settings for years, right? And so like for me, like I played World of Warcraft on like low settings. I play Overwatch on like the lowest possible settings pretty much. And so for me, like this is no big deal, right? Like this looks good. It looks good enough. It's fast. It's whatever. And you know, I had this conversation too with Adam from Megadads on Twitter this week, where it was like, yeah, but it's really important to talk about the graphics. That's a really important part of the gaming conversation nowadays. And I say like it's important to talk about them. And yes, it's not as good. It doesn't look as good. Like, congratulations, it's a new, it's a portable console. It's a Nintendo console. Everybody knows it's less powered, but that's not why you're getting this console. You're getting it because it's a Nintendo console, and B, it's a portable handheld, right? And so it's the portable and a console. Is the main experience still maintained? And in the case of Doom and Rocket League, both, the answer is absolutely yes. Right. And my understanding from the reviews of Skyrim that came out today is that the same case as well. Yes. And so, yeah, I completely am with you, Marty. Absolutely.
Well, I just like, it's not like, I feel like we have come to a point where it's form over function in a way. And like, it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, like, most of the games that I enjoy the most, it's not about like, oh my gosh, this looks so good. I mean, there are times in video games where that's fun and that's okay, but if the visuals give way to a totally boring game, then like Final Fantasy 15, then I'm not going to like, that doesn't equal a good game for me. I mean, I think that we've gotten so wrapped up in specs, and like every time a new game comes out, so how many frames per second is it? What what HD rating does it display in? Well, when did we start? Like, when did that become like the main topic? You know, like when did that become the main way to
measure games?
I think it has been a factor for a long time, and there are certain people out there who it is a very important factor to their games. But yeah, I'm totally with you where it's like it and I think that this conversation really became divisive around the Wii era, where I mean, I'll just maybe even be a little controversial. I hated the fact that the Wii was 480p. Like it was one of my things that it drove me crazy. And like there are old episodes of Infendo Radio when I was back on that. Like I want to say like how long ago would that have been, Jesse? Like 2010 maybe? I don't know.
2010, 2011.
Yeah, where I was just like, man, like this sucks. Like I want this to. I went and bought an Xbox 360, and it was in beautiful HD, and then I turn on, my Wii, and it looked like somebody smeared Vaseline all over the screen, and it drove me crazy. And so, like, I think that that's still a part of it, but it's like you can still appreciate it for what it is at the same time. And I definitely think that today the graphics conversation is much more about, like, we've reached a point where the Nintendo Switch is serviceable. It's good enough, right? Like nobody is sitting playing a game saying this, like that playing Mario Odyssey saying this looks like garbage, right? Like it's a freaking beautiful game, and out of a sure, whatever, right? But it is still a beautiful game in its own right, and it doesn't matter anymore, right? It's not important enough. And I will say to those people though that are more concerned about graphics, in the case of both Doom and Rocket League, one thing is important, like it seems like they have created and this is going to be kind of talking about like ports moving forward, but for games that are created for systems that are they're systems that are more powerful, right? It seems like they are going to have to make concessions, and these are the kinds of concessions that generally we don't see in games that are designed specifically for the Switch, right? So both Doom and Rocket League, they do actually, like, compared to games that are developed natively for the Switch, they don't look as good, right? They look jagged. They look like they're lower resolution. They probably have lower frame rates sometimes. And that is a concession that seems to be made, whereas like even in some of these other games, like one of my criticisms is like, okay, Rocket League, why do you have to render this extravagant background, right? Why can you not just eliminate some of this background stuff, some of the stuff going on way in the background that doesn't matter? Get rid of some of that stuff and free up some of your resources so that you can actually make it a higher resolution image, right? And so that like frees up some of those resources. Stuff like that, for me, like draw distance, where it feels like maybe they are not doing some of that stuff that they could have in order to actually give us the resolution or the frame rate that would make it feel more like a native Switch game. And that's the one thing that I do feel is an issue with both of these ports. And from the footage that I've seen of Skyrim, the Skyrim port feels like, it seems like it actually is more successful in that.
Well, I think that like what we need to kind of get to here is like, what is the litmus test for games? Like, is the litmus test for games going to be teraflops and frames per second, or is the litmus test for games going to be like, is this fun to play? And thankfully, I think with the Switch so far, we've got a good mix of that. You have Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild that they look stunning. They look really good, but then you've got like some retro games too that aren't necessarily graphically all that great, but they play well. But you bring up a really good thing with the ports there. Point with the ports about what are we willing to sacrifice? When it comes down to this, again, what's the litmus test here? Are you willing to sacrifice a bit of graphical fidelity, sound fidelity, so that you can take this with you, or do you just want to sit at home on your giant Pro or X Scorpio machine or whatever and play it that way? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? And again, I mean, if that's what you enjoy, that's what you enjoy. I would like to see, and maybe it is, maybe the Switch is helping with this, a kind of righting of the ship when it comes to this issue.
I'm having fun playing Rocket League.
You like it, Justin? Do you like?
I do. I like Rocket League. I've never played Rocket League before. It's a little bit janky. I can see some of those little graphic things when the game comes in, like when the game first starts, the very first couple moments. But then after that, it doesn't matter because I'm having fun.
By the way, can I say
it.
About Rocket League? I have played almost an entire season in the single player mode, and I absolutely hate how terrible the AI is in this game.
Oh, they're so stupid.
I literally watched. So I shot the ball or whatever, or they shot the ball at me, and I think I mentioned this in the Discord. But there was a ball got launched towards my net, and it literally was rolling super slowly into my net. My teammate drove right up to it, slammed on his brakes, stared at it, and then slowly backed up as the ball slowly rolled into my net. And I was like, oh my gosh, no. I actually went into the settings after that and changed that guy out. I was like, screw you, pal. You're not on my team anymore. I don't even think it matters. Like, I don't think the AI is any different when you do that. But I am currently playing as the Scallywags, which is the Pirates team. I don't know what they actually are called, but I renamed them the Scallywags. And I am on week 27 of the season.
Oh my gosh!
And I have a rank. I have my standings are 18-8. So I have won 18 games and lost 8. And it's mostly been my idiotic teammates that have lost me my games. I feel like I'm getting a lot better at this game too. Like the season games are a really good way to kind of learn different maneuvers to how to hit the ball and like how to jump in the air and then do like a side roll to knock it sideways, all that sort of stuff. I feel like I'm getting a lot more confident in my abilities as a player. And do yourself a favor and go and watch some like tips on different. I think again, I know I've referenced Nintendo Life a lot this podcast, but go and they have a good episode or a good video up that has some good tips and stuff too. So.
And I do think that's one of the important things about this game is to recognize the fact that you #get good, right? Like it's going to take you a while. Like when I have discovered for my playing Rocket League this week, I am not good at Rocket League, but I'm having fun and I'm learning a lot every time I do it to make myself better. And you also have to remember that if you've got other people who are playing the game who have played it on other platforms, so they are really good, and you're playing against them. So you have to kind of learn those things. But I'm still having a great time, and it goes back to your question, Marty. What makes a good game for me? It's fun.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point that you raised. Like if you go into online mode and you totally get wrecked in this, like the very first time that you play it, realize that you're probably playing against PC players. Yeah. You're probably playing against people who have been on it for a long time.
Go check out the tutorial. Go actually check out the tutorial and play the tutorial.
Yes, That's a huge help.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, don't feel like you have to launch yourself at the ball every single time. It's okay.
That's right.
Yeah, it's super fun, man. Like I can't get enough of this game. It's a really, really good time. And I feel like this is the kind of game too that I'm like, I kind of want to get good at you know what I mean? Like not like just like get good like that, but like actually, like, I feel like this it when you actually feel yourself picking up some like good tricks and like good strategy, and like this is actually how you should respond, or this is what to do in order to move the ball, or stuff like that. It's like, oh, this actually feels really good. Like, I feel like I might be getting good at this. And like that feedback loop of mastery, I know I've listened to some other, I've listened to interviews from game developers, and one of the things that is a big thing for especially competitive games like this is that sense of mastery. Like you start feeling like, I actually know what I'm doing. I'm doing things intentionally, and I'm making things happen that I intend to happen. And it's like a really good feeling when that happens, and I'm definitely getting that out of Rocket League for sure. So yeah, so I'm all about Rocket League. It's a really fun time. All right, so that is those are the three main ones that came out this week. Marty, you also picked up Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. I'm interested in your take on this.
Okay, so I picked this up yesterday, and it is the first. Well, I won't say it's the first. It's because now we've got 3 Lego games on the Switch. We've got Lego City Undercover. We have Lego Ninjago Movie, and also now Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. It's the first one I've really been interested in, even though I had Lego City. I bought that more as just kind of, I think it was one of those things like, hey, I haven't bought a game in a while for the Switch. So, back when we thought maybe there might not be any games for it, and Nintendo was doomed. But yeah, Lego Marvel Superheroes is good. I love Lego's take on both Marvel and DC, especially since they moved it to kind of like, they have this full dialogue and everything. Whereas like with the last Marvel game that came out was made by Lego and Traveler's Tales was the Avengers, and you had like actual in-movie dialogue. It is very obvious from the very start of this game that Chris Pratt is not playing Star-Lord. However, the opening of the game is it zooms in on a Lego version of Nowhere, which if you're familiar with Marvel, you know where that is. And the Milano comes flying across the screen to the tune of Come and Get Your Love. I told Zach earlier in our Discord chat, the very first level is completely and totally Guardians of the Galaxy focused, with you being able to play all 5 of them. And it's like Marvel's basically saying with this, we know where our bread's buttered. We know what people like.
Okay, this is going to be a total like Lego Marvel nerd Groot thing. What version of Groot do they have you play as? Is it like the built Groot from the original movie thing, or like is it Baby Groot? What is it?
You can play as both.
See, that's more accurate to the comics, which I actually
you can play as Baby Groot and Large Groot, and you can change at will. So here is the flip side of this, though. If you've ever played a Lego game, you know that Lego games are buggy, and I don't know why they can't figure these problems out. It's like you've been releasing these games for more than 10 years. Come on, guys. My game has crashed 4 times already. And I've literally only put about 2 hours into it. I got it yesterday.
I think you have to quit the game.
Yeah, okay, so the first time was in a specific area of the game where quitting and coming right back into it didn't actually do anything. We were in the same area, so it had saved it, everything. The next time we quit, it was I had beat a level. My wife and I had beaten a level, and the cutscene froze. The video on the cutscene froze, but the audio kept going. And so I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll just wait until the cutscene's over. It's at the end of the level. It'll take me to the level end screen. I'll get all my gold bricks and blah, 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 blah. Never happened. So I had to restart. I had to shut the game down. And at that point, she was like, you know what? I'm tired. I don't want to play anymore. That's fine. So we went back to it today, and I started up that part of the level, and it's the second level in the game, and it's a pretty time consuming level to get through. You're basically playing as 3 teams of Marvel superheroes who are operating at the same time in different parts of the world. And so it actually ended up starting me on the final part, which I was fine with. I didn't have to go do the other 2 parts. But as soon as it started, it froze up again. And she looked at me and she's like, so are we going to be taking this back to the store tomorrow? And I said, no, we're going to give it one more try. All right. And so we tried it and actually beat that level and moved on and played a couple more levels. The only thing that I would say is there's just some odd graphical choices and different things that they do here. Like at the end of the level, we finished the 3rd level, and she's like, well, it's froze up again. But actually what it's doing is like it stopped this cutscene in mid action. And if you've ever played Lego games, you know, there's like kind of like you finish a level and it goes through all your bonuses and how many studs you collected and everything like that. In this game, it presents it comic book style, which I think is a pretty cool idea. It's just, it takes a while for it to load for some reason. And so this image gets frozen of Spider-Man like falling, and she's like, oh, it's frozen again. This sucks. And I was like, no, wait. He looks different. He looks like a comic book, kind of like the texture had changed. And about that time, you know, like 5-10 seconds later, it popped up as the cover of the comic book, and then it flips open and it starts going through all the different panels and things. Is this enough for me to not make it, to not recommend this game to you? No. I still think if you like Marvel and you like Lego, this is a perfect game for families. Although I will echo something that I heard Chris White say. Chris has been a guest on the show before. He was playing this game undocked, and there are just some times where your characters get really hard to see.
Like
in handheld mode, yeah, in the undocked mode. So I would say that this is probably a docked play only. But I did buy it for the Switch so I could take it with me. So I haven't tested it myself, but that was a big criticism that he had of it day one. Although, and I will say this too. I think this is, I mean, I know there's been other Switch games that have come out that have had like the quote season pass model.
Yeah.
I think so far it's been Zelda and Rabbids, right?
And Fire Emblem Warriors. Okay,
Fire Emblem Warriors. So far, I have not seen. I didn't buy the collector's edition of Fire Emblem Warriors, so I didn't see this. The deluxe edition of this game came with a poster, a minifigure of Hank Pym as Giant Man, and it also came with a code inside the game box for all of the DLC. Which I was kind of impressed with, because you get the original cast of the Guardians of the Galaxy, like the original Guardians, you get those immediately for entering the code. So like you get like old school Yondu and several of the guys that you see at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Like Charlie 27.
Yes. Yes. And the Diamond Guy and all those. Yeah, you get all of those.
Astro. Oh, yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, so you get several of those. You also get like Hulk 2099, and that's one thing too. The 2099 characters are in this game. Gwenpool's in this game. Lots of new, lots of like underused Marvel characters are in this game, like the Enchantress and the Black Knight, and Doctor Strange plays a major role in the story. He's fun to play as. So, but the DLC is 6 packs of DLC that includes not just levels but character packs as well. And
all of that came with this, with that.
All of that came with the deluxe version. And so you just go in like it. Even now, today, you can go in and you can enter the code and you can throw that piece of paper away because you've entered the code, and you'll just get those downloads when they become available, just like people on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One have been able to do for a while. So kudos Nintendo for getting all that crap worked out and making sure that, at least purchasing things online is somewhat current. But yeah, go get, if you're a parent and you want to play a game with your kids that, they get unlimited lives and you'll have fun and you'll laugh and it's got good humor and there's stuff blowing up and action and all that, go get Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. No previous game required. So you don't have superheroes to get this one.
Oh, am I losing just Marty or am I losing everybody?
I'm here.
Okay. Alrighty. Cool. You just cut out for a quick second. Right on,
I'm sorry.
All right. I think we're going to lose Justin in about 15 minutes. Justin, what else have you been playing, dude?
So I have been playing Rive from Two Tribe Games. We have a Let's Play up on our up on our YouTube channel. And this was actually, I think, originally on the Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Wii U a long time ago. But guys, this is a fantastic game. It is a dual stick shooter where you are playing. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic space kind of journey. It has kind of reminds me of time. I don't want to throw in the term too much. There's some Metroidvania components of it every once in a while. There's a great writing and sense of humor to this game. There is like speed run modes. There's challenge modes. There's daily challenges. There's leaderboards. There's actually a 2-player option where you can co-op or co-pilot a ship. I'm having a ton of fun with this game. And it's also like when you die, you come back in the game really quickly. It's unlimited lives, so it's very Meat Boy-ish that way. So you're quick. There's, you get to an area, you kind of die a couple times, you learn how to complete the area. You complete the area and then move on. So it's really great. The characters are really funny, smart writing. I would highly recommend this game. Like, I'm not a huge fan of dual stick shooters. I've said that before, but it moves from being a dual stick shooter at times to then all of a sudden kind of being a, platformer, 2D platformer elements, an amazingly cool art style. The music is great. I would highly, highly recommend you pick up Rive on the Nintendo eShop. And I believe currently it releases on November 17th. I believe for 2 weeks they have a 15% discount where it's $12.50. And then the full retail price goes up to being, I think, $14.99 USD, of course, for both those USD. But I would definitely highly recommend this. Like, it is really, really good. I'm loving it. Yeah. Again, my McDonald's reference there, but I am absolutely having a blast with this one. Again, not typically a game I would think that I would enjoy. Smart writing, fun gameplay. Goes back to the idea. What is it? It's fun. It's fun. I enjoy it. It's a perfect addition on the Switch. I've been playing it primarily on handheld, and it plays great. I cannot recommend enough. Again, that's Two Tribe Games. Also, big thanks to Two Tribe for actually providing us the review copy of that as well.
Yeah, right on. I played a little bit of it too, and it's like you said, like dual stick shooter type thing. It actually reminds me a lot of there was a game on the Genesis called Subterranea. It was much less of a shooter, but it was sort of like that underground setting for a spaceship, which is cool. Like, I like that. It's not just like flying around in space. It's like more confined areas, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it kind of crosses like a Venn diagram of a bunch of kind of genres, not just dual. Like, calling it just dual stick shooter is very, very loose. Like, there's a lot of other things.
It explains the control scheme, I guess, is more.
Yeah. I guess that's a good point. That's a good way. Yeah, but yeah, it's awesome. You need to check it out. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Marty, I want to come back to you. Tell us about this masterpiece. Maybe I shouldn't be quite so sarcastic and dismissive right away, but tell me about Rime.
Okay, so Rime is a game that's been coming for a while on Nintendo Switch. In fact, I think was originally announced as a launch title, correct? Or close to launch.
Was it originally like a Wii U thing, or was it?
It was supposed to be close to launch, yeah.
So launch window, we'll call it launch window. And got delayed and delayed and delayed. And finally, Rime released this week on the 14th, unfortunately releasing the same day as Rocket League and some other games. Guys, I would here's the thing, like from the very beginning, like the look of Rime, like the art style and everything, I wanted this game to be good. I wanted to it to be something great. And I heard, that it was a great little indie Zelda style game. Of course, people have been playing it on PS4 and Xbox One for a while, even PC. We were provided a copy of this game by the publisher, and usually when you hear me review games on this show, you know that I try to at least put a positive spin on it and find something good about it. This is going to be one of those times that don't fall in that category. And that's unfortunate because I really wanted to enjoy this game. But I downloaded it, and I am aware that there is a day one patch that went live. I've not yet been able to download that. So I'm planning on testing it again. And I'll tell you what, I'll amend my comments that I'm making right now on next week's show about it once I do that. But speaking of ports, like Zach talked about earlier, this is one of the worst ports of a game to a system that I have ever seen. I don't understand what went wrong. I don't understand how they could have even released it in the state it's in. I've had a pretty significant period of time with the game. I got it about 2 weeks ahead of release, and here's what I can tell you. It stutters, the sound crackles, and for a game that is on the same system that has Mario Odyssey running like it does in handheld, it literally looks at times like a 3DS game.
Well, from what I've seen too, like slideshow sort of frame drops, right? Where it's some stuff I saw online this week was just.
Now, the developers did come out and say that one of the reasons that you see that is because Rime supports this kind of system called load on demand. So basically, as you're going into a new area or you're moving into a new part of the island, that area is loaded as you go, and so they're stuttering on other systems. But they kind of blame Nintendo when they said this. But those other he's like, those other systems are a little more powerful than the Switch, so it like in my initial play of the game, just to get to a point where I could review it and feel like I'd done it justice, it totally broke the game for me. It totally, I mean, like at points that, like you said, the slideshow type stuttering, it wasn't just the visuals, it was the audio. It was a noticeable drop in frame rate. It was jagged textures on characters to the point that just by the end of it, I just said, I don't care. I don't know what the culprit is here. I don't know if it's just that they didn't care, or if that they realized, halfway through the porting process, this is not going to work. Let's just push it out the door. But for a game that is already $10 more on the Switch than it is everywhere else, I can sit here and tell you, I can't recommend it at all. I can't tell you enough to stay away. Now, if something were to change and they were to release patches that make it playable, and do all kinds of different things like that, then I'll come back and I'll be glad to tell you something different. I'm going to keep testing it. I'm going to keep trying it. But as it stands right now, it's unplayable if you just leave it like it is. And that's unfortunate because, again, it seems like an interesting game. Seems like an interesting concept. There's no, to my knowledge, just to kind of give you some background, you start out as this boy. He's washed up on an island. And he doesn't really know where he is. And he can't attack. There's no attacking in Rime, as far as I've found. But you cause things to happen by shouting at them. So, like, there's these shrines that you find at the first of the game, and it's obvious that, like, you have to get these 4 lights over to this one big shrine. So you go find the 4 lights, and then you get there, and it's like, hey! And they fly away, and you run after them. And
there are 4 lights.
Yeah,
nice.
I thought the same thing, but I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah,
it seems like something that, like, in the beginning had great intentions, but just didn't have the follow through that it needed.
Yeah, I really do. I'm not a fan of the idea that they would blame the Switch for this or blame Nintendo. Like, listen, if you're going to port a game to a system, you need to know and like announce it and make it this big thing. Like, part of that is, I don't know, like, to say that you fulfill that promise, right? You know what I mean? If you're going to, my grandpa always told me, if you're going to do a job, if it's any job that's worth doing is worth doing well, right? And don't give me this crap about how you, like, I don't know, maybe I was just raised old school, but like, don't give me this crap about all these things about why you couldn't do what you could have done. There's so many other ways you could have done it. You know, there's a solution to these problems, and I don't know what that is. And if there's not a solution to it, then you just, that does not excuse putting out a subpar product.
Breath of the Wild doesn't seem to have any problem with infinite loading. You can go one continent, run straight, and never see a load screen.
And like their excuse that like, okay, well, it's okay that because of how they have created their game, and it's not just the Switch, by the way. There have been, like, it is worse on the Switch, but that jankiness has been reported on all systems, right? Xbox One, I know that a similar sort of thing has been said on
to a point. Systems. It's been reported, but you didn't hear that, as much when this came out. But I mean, multiple outlets, Arlo and several others were just like, no, we can't recommend this game.
Yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, I think that's hogwash. I think that sucks. And own your own crap and just do better. That's honestly, I don't know. It is what it is, but let's not blame Nintendo or like play the victim about it. I guess maybe that's more what it is for me, is like, oh, poor us, we couldn't get this game to run even though we said we could, and we didn't tell anybody that we weren't going to, or whatever. Is just like, oh, aren't we victims now because we couldn't do what we set out to do. I'm sorry, no, you created a product that you made a promise on a product that you couldn't deliver on, and then you put it out to market anyways, and now you are like deservedly getting crap for it. Like that's how I see it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit harsh on that, but that's kind of how I see it. So,
folks, I got to bounce.
Okay.
But thanks very much for having me. Good seeing you again. I'm glad we had a chat.
All right, dude. Have a good have a top of the morning.
Your Irish stereotypes are so horrible.
I change. All right.
All right. Thanks, guys. Like to see you. Bye.
All right. Jesse, what have you got as we round out today?
All right. So I put a good amount of time into Cat Quest. So when I first saw this, I'm thinking, oh, it looks like it might be a turn-based RPG type of thing. Because, of course, there was only stills. There were no video. So I'm like, okay, let's download this and give it a try. And no, not turn-based. It's kind of an action-y, real-time combat RPG, kind of like Secret of Mana, maybe.
Okay.
Which, so it's less my thing than a turn-based game is, but still I enjoyed it. It's relatively short. The whole game took about 8 to 12 hours. I don't know exactly how long it took me. And, I think I've done everything I can do, and it leaves like 2 gaping plot holes in the game, which makes it sound like that there could be like potential, like, either a sequel or DLC or just a game patch to add more content.
Okay.
And this game has been out on Steam since like earlier this summer, but it hit the Switch and other consoles last week. So the weird part is when I finished the storyline, there was like no indication that I finished the storyline. They were like, "Oh, well, okay, looks like we did everything we can do. We still don't know about this and this, but let's just keep on helping everyone else." and then so you like fill in all the side quests that you missed, and that's all you can do. So there was like no credit roll in there. Nothing indicated that I reached the end of the game.
Oh wow.
So that was kind of odd. So, but one thing that I did enjoy is a crap ton of cat puns. So
yeah, which from this game I would expect. This game, like I'm looking at it, I'm like, this actually looks like it's doing really well on the eShop. It's like rocking, like it's in the top selling games on the Switch right now. Like pretty insane actually. How are you like, is it warranted?
I think so. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I think the fact that it is kind of a short RPG is something that we need more of. When most people think of RPGs, they're thinking the Dragon Quests, the Personas, the Final Fantasies that are 100-hour games. And yeah, they're fun, but sometimes I just want the 10-hour game and still have that RPG feel to it. But anyways, I did get some examples of some of these puns. So like you have this like Navi companion throughout the whole game that he calls you his podner.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
yes.
So one of the cities is called Windmew City, where there's a big windmill, but so they call it Windmew. There's an area called the Forbidden Fields, FUR.
Amazing.
There's
yes.
The Bermuda Triangle, MEW.
oh,
Yeah, and the game map is like laid out like an old paper map. You actually see the names of the areas as you're running around. And then the last one I have is
something. I'm watching a video on YouTube right now, just like like a Let's Play sort of thing. It's pretty good looking game. Like the overworld map here. Like there's like a little town, and like he's walking by, and it pretty good art style.
Yeah, I like the very cartoony, kind of simplistic art style, but it gets its point across. It does what it needs to do. So the last pun example I saved was for the capital is called the Catpital.
Oh.
So
it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah. So it's actually as you play through it goes into like a bit of lore about who you are or what you are and where are others of your kind, and it's who created there was like another race of beings that created what everything else, and you learn a little bit about that. So it's an interesting backstory to it, and I'm looking forward to getting more in the future to fill in those gaps that those blatant plot holes in the end of the game. So there's a leveling up system. You start out at level 1, and as you level up, you gain there's like three main stats: is your health, your attack, and your magic. And then you collect gear as rewards for in doing individual quests from quest boards and cities, or just you find chests in the little mini dungeons that could either give you new gear or upgrade existing gear. And so so you can kind of lay out your character any way you want among those stats. I started off with combat heavy, with high attack, and try to knock out the opponent as fast as I can. And then throughout the course of the game, I shifted more towards the magic. Because you learn 6 different spells, of which you can equip 4 at a time, and use them relatively quick. They're triggered by the LR, ZR, ZL, ZR. So you can set them up any way you want and use them. And once I got the magic system down, it was in combination with the melee combat, I was just rocking things. Then each of the dungeons have a recommended level. They actually go up to level 200. Of course, once you have the best the best gear you can find, even though I ended up at level 85, I was able to take down the level 200 dungeon. But it's just one of those things that if you're still level 30, you probably don't want to touch it.
Right.
So it's fun, and so if you enjoy bad cat puns and real time RPGs, give it a try.
Mm-hmm. Right on, man. Very cool. Anything else? Who we got? Looks like there's one more game here, and I know we're going long here, but anything else? Who's got the VVV?
That was me. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know how to pronounce this game.
I think it's supposed to be the sound like
that. Okay, so my question was: is it v or is it VVVVV or is it v?
All the other podcasters I've ever heard talk about this game have always just spelled it out. VVV, 6 V.
Okay, so it's 5 V's.
6.
VVVVV.
6.
I'm sorry. VVVVVV. So this is a really interesting game. I've actually really enjoyed it. So you play as the captain of a ship who has wound up in this weird dimension where your crew is separated and everything has gone haywire, and you have one ability, which is to invert gravity and go from the floor to the ceiling. That's it. That's all you can do. And you're tasked with finding your crew and activating teleporters to get them all back to the ship so the ship can leave. I found 2 out of the possible 5, I think, that you have to find. And guys, this game, like, the visuals on it are, by all standards of today's gaming, are absolute garbage. I mean, it looks like it's on an Atari 2600.
Yeah, when I first played this game on Steam, back probably like 2010, it reminded me of like the old Commodore 64 style sprite graphics. If you remember that, that's what it reminded me of. So
yeah, absolutely.
A level above Atari 2600, but still very primitive.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a bizarre game. There's all kinds of different, the levels, if you want to call them levels, are pretty short. The rooms are small. They usually are about one screen, and each of them has some kind of gimmick. But the world is actually in a large open world map. But when you find one of your crewmates, it'll say, level complete. And eventually you collect them all and you're able to escape, I suppose. And love this game. If you're looking for a hard as nails platforming game for the Switch that evokes that retro Commodore even feel, this is for you. And it's not so weird that it's weird and I don't want to play it. It's good different. Okay, so let me make that clear. It's a good kind of different. Unlimited lives, because you will die a lot. You will die an incredible amount of times in this game. Most of the time at the same spot on the same level over and over and over again until you say, oh my gosh, I've got to put this down for a while before I throw my Switch through the wall, which is where I'm at right now. But I think it's on the eShop right now, I believe. Am I right?
Yeah, I think it's like $10.
Oh.
Nintendo eShop. Let me just go check here because I want to be sure before I say this.
It is not yet. What is it coming soon? Coming soon as of the 17th. So that's tomorrow.
Okay, probably noonish tomorrow.
Yeah, so it'll be out tomorrow. This game is going to be I can't get a price on it right now. Even on Nintendo's actual site, it doesn't have a price.
$9.99.
13 Canadian, so 9.
13 Canadian, $9.99 in the US. For those of you who do like stats, it does run at a silky smooth 60 frames per second. No, it feels super responsive, and it's got lots of game modes. There's time trials. There's no death mode. And the good part about the game is there's tons of checkpoints in the game, so that if you do die a lot, then you'll find yourself getting to start back back near where you were. So But I mean, there's just some of like there's one level that I got to yesterday. I was playing, and there's spikes on the ceiling and floor, and you have to drop into a hole in the middle of the floor, which immediately takes you down into the next stage where there's spikes on a platform in the center. And if you don't die there, if you go all the way over to the side, you can go down. And then you fall down to another level that's like the bottom of this pit, and there's like small platforms with spikes where if you're on the side, you automatically die. So you have to go middle, side, middle, and you're like, okay, why am I down here? And then you realize it's because that's how you got over the spikes on the ceiling. So you have to fall all the way to the bottom, then invert gravity and come all the way back to the top just to get past those spikes.
My head's dizzy.
Yeah.
Understand what's going on.
It's tough as nails. If you're looking for that type of platformer, this is for you.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures on the Nintendo website now, and the text that shows up on the bottom of the screen actually looks like the Commodore 64 font. So that's probably why I had the Commodore 64 in my head when I first saw this.
Right on. Well, hey man, that's crazy. We so many games, guys. So many games. It's crazy. But no games on the Switch, right? That's
Then a game I bought today but haven't played it yet, so I'll probably talk about it next week. Is It'll Do 2 Plus for the Switch.
Nice. And also another thing that's coming out tomorrow that we have a code from the developer, but we haven't had a chance to play it yet. Green Game Time Swapper. I'll be talking about that next week too. So right on. Well, let's quickly get into. We just have one listener mail here, but I wanted to make sure that we get to this. So here you go. All right, and of course the Postman segment. We always call listener mail Postman. I don't know. We call it both, right? It's both. Brought to you by our friends at OneUpBox.com. So use the code Nintendo Dads. They're going to send you some sweet geeky stuff every single month. So go and do that, everybody. Treat yourself. It's that time of year where things get crazy. Treat yourself with a little OneUpBox.com. Use the code Nintendo Dads, and you will be supporting the show as well. So we've got one email from a good friend of the show, Brian Welch, and I wanted to make sure that we at least get this one in today, which I think is just super awesome. So I'm not going to play the therapy disclaimer because I feel like this speaks for itself. But I'll go ahead and read it. It says, I just wanted to thank you all for the real talk that you guys have had on the podcast, especially lately. It's why I love listening to you guys and why you are unique in a sea of other podcasters talking about video games. Thanks in large part because of you all and the focus you've had on mental health. This week, I finally got the courage to seek out professional help and am now seeing a counselor / therapist, and I'm on some medication to help me with my anxiety and depression. It's something I should have done years ago, but you helped me get the courage I needed. So I just want to... Oh, I just closed that. Where'd it go? So I just want you to know that you've had a positive impact on my life, and hopefully things will begin to improve for me. Thank you for helping me make these changes in my life. You do so much more than just talk about Nintendo. You are helping make a better world. Thank you. And I wanted to make sure that... I replied back to him to make sure that we could get his permission to read that on the show. But huge thanks to Brian Welch, the beard himself, the majestic. I think it is more majestic than ever to me now. But for me, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like I read this and then I actually like teared up and then made my wife read it and then replied. To me, this is like we just sit around talking about video games and whatever, screwing around, but this is something that I feel like, the whole idea of like making the world a better place is something that I've always really felt like is an important thing for me, at least. I've always kind of strived for that. And so like Hopefully this is something as well. You know, I want to give all the credit to Brian. You know, that is a huge step, and I'm super excited and happy for him because it is something that's really scary to go to a freaking therapist. Like there's this concept in a lot of people's heads, and there's this stigma of like, oh man, if you have to go see a shrink, then man, like you must be out to lunch and you're weak and whatever. No, that is one of the hardest things that you can do, and it takes so much courage and strength to do that, to seek help. That I just like, I applaud that. I think that's great, and I think that anybody out there who is considering that, hopefully we're able to show a little bit of hope and I think that's just really inspiring to me. So I don't know, how are you guys feeling about this? You guys have any other things to add to that?
I remember, like, I mean, we got this email earlier on in the week, and it totally just made my week. And I thank you so much for sending it in. And here's the thing, like, I love talking about Nintendo, right? We love Nintendo. It's a company that means a lot to us, but I think we would probably honestly say that what means to us even more than Nintendo is knowing that people listen to the show, that it brightens their day, that it makes a difference in their lives. And I couldn't, like, when I joined up with you guys almost a year ago, I think it has been a year.
I think it has. Yeah.
I think it has been a year. Like, if you had told me that we'd be getting that kind of listener mail, I would not have. I would have said, nah. I mean, this little hobby that we have of podcasting, this thing that we do where we make these shows that you like and that you support, for us to be able to actually have somebody now come to us and say, you made a huge difference in my life. You helped me get help that I needed. Thank you so much for that. That's a really cool thing. I'm like you. I made my wife read it, and I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, this is what you want. This is why we do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when I started doing this, trying to change the world and make people happier never really crossed my mind. I was doing it because I was enjoying it for myself. But knowing that we are having impact on people and they are appreciative of what we do, it makes me feel just awesome. I love what we do. We love our community. This is great. So thanks. And because normally, for every one person who writes to us, we have maybe 100 listeners who's never written in. So if we have one person actually going to that level, how many more other out there that may also need similar assistance in one way or another? So I'm just glad to know that you are not alone. We've shared our stories. We now have our listeners sharing their stories, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that it's just super cool to know that, because I think I kind of talked about this on my interview with Sean Capri, which, if you guys haven't listened to that, I go in depth into sort of like my sort of attitude about mental health and stuff like that. But a big part of the reason why I was attracted to the clinic that I am currently working at is because they not only were they therapists, but they kind of have this mandate of like changing the conversation around mental health and all those sorts of things. And I'm working on developing a podcast with them, which is coming in the near-ish future. But that was all like an additional, like, we're not just going to do therapy, but we're going to like actually actively change the conversation and the stigma and the public attitudes around mental health and people getting help for stuff like this. And so this, for me, like, I'm excited by this, and I hope I'm going to be honest, if there are people out there who are like, oh man, I wish they wouldn't do so much mental health stuff. It's like, well, you know what? Actually, I don't think I could not do it if I tried. So we might as well lean into it, and we might as well make a difference and help other people. And there's also a reason why it tends to end up at the end of the show. So for people who like it, it's there, and for people who don't, at least you got your video game talk too. So anyway,
and when we do go, off the track and the gaming track and into that, it usually still is loosely related to gaming somehow, because if someone needs help, they need some way to get away from things. They might use games as a way to escape either good or bad. Their children may have the issue, which we do the dad's thing and help talk about the parent side and the kid side. So everything is slightly loosely connected to everything. So
absolutely. So thanks again, Brian, for that awesome email, and keep us informed. I'm interested to, as a therapist, it's this thing where I'm like, I hope the best for you. And I guess, this maybe would lead into just a couple of things as far as therapy and stuff goes too, as well. The one thing that I would say, if there are, and again, to what you were saying, Jesse, about like the assumption that there are others who are maybe that is happening and they're not writing in. The one thing that I would say as well, as far as like tips for somebody who's new to going to a therapist, I would say the number one thing is the most important thing to working with a therapist is that match, that relationship between the two of you. And so don't be afraid if you get a therapist, you're like, I'm not feeling this. Feel free to shop around, right? Like if you're not going to push through that weird, awkward relationship. And so I would always say you are a consumer in that relationship, right? And so having a therapist that you really feel like you can trust, and those sorts of things is essential. And so that would be the number one thing that I would lend to that, is make sure that you feel like you can trust this person, that you have a good vibe from them, and that you feel like it's a good match. And if it's not, find somebody who you feel you will get that with. So that would be my thing, just as sort of unsolicited advice for people who are going to therapy. But anyways, any final thoughts, guys, as we wrap up before we get into our music?
Thanks again for writing in.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. All right, as we kind of round out the show, Marty, we have Retro Rewind. I think we're going to record it next week.
That's correct. Metroid Prime Retro Rewind will be next week. So finish up your playthroughs of Metroid Prime. You know what? It would be a great thing if you're stuck with family over the Thanksgiving holidays here in the U.S. and you need a break. You know what would be good with that? Retro Rewind. Get ready for Metroid Prime. Disappear for a few hours and go kill those Metroids. But play the game. Play it as much as you can. It is available on the Wii U eShop, or you can play it on the GameCube as well. And also Retro Rewind voting for the next Retro Rewind will be coming up at the end of that show as well. We'll give you more details about that next week.
Yeah. By the way, this is totally random. Did you know that the eShop now has, if you go to okay, this is totally random. I promise I was just like fiddling while we were doing this. There is now a section in the All Games tab, where you go to like the recent games, you go all the way to the bottom, it says All Games, right? Recent releases, and then you go to All Games at the bottom of that, right? And it gives you just that stupid list that you can sort. There is now a button on there that says Games with Demos. You click that, and it shows all the demos that are available on the Switch. I just downloaded 3 demos. There's a demo for Heroes of the Monkey Tavern. There's a demo. There's a demo for Pixel Lines DX, which I didn't have. I'm going to get that. And also a demo for Oceanhorn, which I didn't know was out. So there you go. Bunch of demos. If you're a demo fan, there you go. Demos.
There's a lot of demos here.
Yeah, I didn't realize there were that many demos on the Switch. So, all right. Well, with that, gentlemen, any final thoughts before we wrap up? All right. As well, next time we will have voting for the new and improved Retro Rewind coming up. I'll give you a hint. You might want to keep that SNES Classic close by. So that'll be fun. All right. So with that, of course, thank you to everybody for listening to this episode of the Nintendo Dads podcast. If you want to follow us on all the social medias, you can do so on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Nintendo Dads. If you want to email us, you can do so nintendodads@gmail.com. If you want to watch our videos and our gaming and all that, you can go to twitch.tv/NintendoDads or youtube.com/c/NintendoDads. If you want to call in and leave us a voicemail, you can do so at 929-25-NDADS. That's 929-256-3237. Huge thanks to OC Remix for our music throughout the show, as well as to both Carter Johnson and Enem Leonard from Megadads for our amazing artwork. And of course, if you want to change the world, which you do, I know, we've talked about this, go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. Written reviews are even better. And if you want to subscribe, go to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and of course, VGTribune.com. For me, for Justin, for Jesse, and for Marty, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Nintendo Dads.
Wobble Puffet? Wobble Buffet?